What does it mean to be an executive leader, to be a decision maker, someone who is responsible, accountable for decisions and for leading organizations?
This is a key point of life that comes back to managing a company. As a human being, what we crave more than anything is to feel valued. You heard that saying, people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. Really what they quit is when they stop being valued. It's not just about the boss, it's about the value proposition.
There's that piece where you give back, and we have footy players down here, so a lot of people end up getting their favourite player, and that's the player who might be sort of middle of the pack, but they hang around and they go and get photos, or they'll give their boots to a kid or something, and they never forget.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Lean Solutions Podcast. My name is Patrick Adams, and I am joined today by our co-host, Andy Olrich. Hey, Andy, how's it going?
Hey, mate. Going fantastic. Thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm amazing, and I'm excited for our guest today. Billy Ray Taylor is also on the line. Hey, Billy, how you doing?
Hey, Patrick. Andy, how are you guys doing? I'm doing great.
Doing amazing. We're excited for this episode. Excited to dive into the topic of today, leadership in lean organizations, and what does it mean to be an executive leader, to be a decision maker, someone who is responsible, accountable for decisions and for leading organizations that are leading with intention, that are leading with a focus on continuous improvement. And who else better to interview on this topic than Billy Ray Taylor? For those of you that do not know Billy Ray, he was actually a keynote speaker for the Lean Solutions Summit this past year. And we've had him on the podcast for a few episodes, actually. But Billy Taylor is a global keynote speaker. He's the author of The Winning Link and the founder of LinkedXL, a global consulting and software company that empowers organizations to win through strategic implementation of the connected business model, which we can talk a little bit about that maybe during the show, so we can understand a little bit more about how the connected business model can actually help organizations. But Billy, we're excited to have you and excited to talk about this topic. Do you mind just giving our audience just a little bit of a brief understanding of a little bit of maybe the leadership roles that you've played in the past and where you've been at in those roles?
Absolutely. Well, Patrick, I spent 30 years in operations with the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. And so I came from, actually, after I graduated from college, from the shop floor supervision all the way to the executive suite. So I rose through those ranks and getting that practical experience. I was part of a team that helped Goodyear go from a negative 38 million to $1 billion in profit. And how do we do that, right? We built business systems. And so today I have a company called LinkedXL where I leverage that experience to help companies grow.
Love it. Love it. And tell us a little bit about the connected business model, Billy.
Well, it's where really I tell people when I go in to meet them, I sell speed, the speed of execution, right? And then what happens is, how do you connect the strategy and that alignment piece to the owners of that strategy, and then how to execute that strategy with a daily management system? So the connected business model, it does that. It connects the strategy with the owners, with the execution plan. And then what it does is help you close the gaps. And so that's what a connected business model is.
I think that's such an important concept that so many organizations miss is, they go out and they try to do so many different things, but they miss the importance of ownership and understanding how key it is that without ownership, there's no accountability, right? If
Right.
everybody's responsible, then nobody's responsible.
That's right.
And so you have to have that ownership to create some level of accountability, and you have to have the right leaders in the right seats. I mean, there's so many other, foundational learnings that come along with that, but it's such a key point that ownership is established. Are there examples maybe from your years at Goodyear or other organizations of where you didn't see that level of ownership, or that there was nobody that would really commit to take ownership?
Mm-hmm. Yes. As a young leader, I thought it was all about me. And boy, that was my biggest first lesson learned. All right. It's about us, right? And the formula was strategy plus execution equals results. What I kept missing was that plus. Strategy plus who owns what in the strategy. See, that's when you start to get to the real ownership, when people know what they own. Because one of my favorite quotes are it's two of them. You can't manage a secret. The second one is, in the absence of ownership comes blame. When people don't know what they own in your strategy, when you have your weekly meetings, it's a blame game. But when it's crystal clear what you own, right? One of my sayings when I go with my clients, when two people owns the dog, meaning the two people own something, the dog dies. I thought you fed the dog. No, I thought you fed the dog. No, I thought well, the dog ends up dead because no one fed the dog. And they blame each other as I thought you were going to feed the dog. Let me convert that into business. When you put your plan together, once the plan's there, you can't manage your secret. Don't put it in a PowerPoint and put it in a frame. It's a secret then, right? Bring it to life by assigning who owns what in that strategy. So that when we have our meetings, it's around why we're missing. And earlier in my career, I realized you have to celebrate the red so you can harvest the green, right? You have to create that psychological safety so people can rally around what the issues are. Because if they're afraid, what are they going to do? They're not going to talk about it. And it goes back to my first point. You can't manage a secret. And so if they don't talk about it, then it's a secret, right? And so that's the thing that I really realize as a leader. You have to create this environment that is psychologically safe to engage, right? And so therefore, when you're building these strategies, that's a big component.
Yeah, amazing, Billy. I was so fortunate to be in that audience last year at the summit, and those two phrases that you use there, that just hit me right between the eyes, because it's so true when you go through organizations and either they haven't got the strategy worked out themselves, or they have the strategy and you ask someone on the shop floor and they're like, I don't know, I just do this. And I love the way that you're able to use a real example with the audience there and then you thank the person for being transparent with you, right? So we shared that on a previous Spotlight episode. So
absolutely,
just such an important piece around that plus, and for yourself coming from the shop floor, like you said, right through to the executive. What I find really powerful about your connected model is the simple visuals where you talk about the 3 and the 10-second rule, and it's all right on the shop floor. And could you give our listeners a bit of an insight into that, Billy, about how you make it so practical and visual for regardless of who's looking at it?
Absolutely. And great point, Andy, as well as no matter what level, right? We're all human, right? We're all human, and we're all wired to know the score. Just think about it. When you go to a sporting event, what's the first thing you look at? It's the scoreboard, right? And the scoreboard tells the coaches what to do next, right? And so if you don't have that visual management on the shop floor, the people don't know if you're winning or losing. And so that's the reason why it's very critical. It's critical. It moves people to action, but you can't just put anything up there, right? You have to measure what matters. But anywhere I go with it is when we're building visual boards, people only go to the KPI piece of it. They want to show metrics. They want to show trends. Well, again, it's too late. It's after the fact. What we do when we build boards or we build visual management systems, we build two boards, the KPA, the Key Performance Actions Board, and the Key Performance Indicator. So think about it, where you want ownership. When we build boards, we say the first board is when you first get to work, was your area safe and clean, red or green? So you're telling yourself whether it's red or green. And if it's red, what did you do about it? Even if you had to call me, all right, was the equipment reliable, red or green, right? When you got to work, was your work area clean, red or green? When you left at the end of the day, did you leave the area red or clean, red or green? So that triggers a behavior that gives you the highest probability to win. Then we build those boards and the key elements of the boards beyond the data. A board must have what was the issue and what was the corrective action. Again, that's triggering the behaviors you want. once you use the data. The data is just a fact of where you're at, right? What you want to do is say, what did you do about it? And that's the ownership piece. That's the ownership piece. So that's how we build a KPA board and the KPI board. You need both.
Yeah. I like that. I love the idea of, almost, it's like the leading measures and the lagging measures, right?
Absolutely.
So the leading measures, or the KPA board, is based on behaviors, and also, one of the things that I find with the KPI board, that daily management piece that's kind of managing after the fact, is many times, to your point, they have the KPIs up there, they have the measures, but then there's no action. So they're just talking about what happened. They're just reporting out on what you can see. And really, to your point, the board should tell a story. If I see red, I should look at either a Pareto or some kind of a collection of the reasons why it's red, and then not responding, not doing something necessarily on every single red, but looking for trends or repeat issues that we can then go, okay, this is a problem that continues to happen. We haven't been able to take care of it on a day-to-day basis. So now what's the action that we're doing to actually respond to that? So the KPI board should really tell a story and show some action, but also, to your point, that's more reactive. It's making adjustments as you go based on what has already happened. And I love the idea of the KPA board, where you're looking at, daily behaviors and what you're doing almost minute by minute, or when you come in, to your point. And that had to have been something that became natural to you, because if you started out in frontline leadership and worked your way all the way up to an executive level position, I mean, I have to imagine, looking back as an executive, going, it probably was a lot easier for you to see the connections or make the connections to behavior with KPIs. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I came up in union factories, so steel worker factories, 3,000 people working in a factory. And so understanding that piece of it, and it goes back to, Patrick, when you're building those boards, it's clear to connect the owner, who owns what, to the stuff that's on that board, right? And so I remember, actually, I just had a steel worker executive. I was on a plane. He was texting me. He says, I just gave your book to an executive at Alcoa. And he was understanding, how do you crack that code of relationship building with the steam workers? And he says, I'm going to give you this book. This guy, Billy Taylor. When I went to see Billy would bring it to the framework and says, okay, what's the standard? A union contract book, that's the standard. That's how we're going to operate. So I'm going to hold to the standard. I'm not going to do anything. And when you come to my office, I want to start the conversation with the standard. When I build these boards, I'm going to start with the standard. I'm going to talk about these things. But the ownership piece is what drives the change. The connection to those things. Both of you guys are healthy gentlemen. I'm looking at you on the screen. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer for me. What's more important? Standing on the scale to see how much you weigh, looking in the mirror, looking at your physique, or the workouts? I'm going to eat this amount of 2,000 calories a day. I'm going to walk 2 miles a day. I'm going to sleep 3 hours a day. If I do those things, I should impact what's in the mirror. So what's more important? The workout, the exercise, the KPA, or the KPI, standing on the scale? See, standing on the scale will tell you if what you're doing is working or not. It doesn't dictate what you need to do. Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was going to say, like, they're both important, but it's really about, understanding whether your strategy is producing the results. And that piece there, we see, I want to just sort of dive a little bit deeper into when we're setting up the boards, for example, and you'll be part of the executive track at the summit in September, right? So there'll be a lot of executives, I think, will be interested to find out, that pushback you get, even if you are trying to hold them to the standard, but also when you're setting up these boards, if they've already got some sort of system in their areas, how you can stop having some information here or half the score in that room and then half the score in that room. How do you get that standard to life, and then also try and get that consistency and buy-in early in the piece when they really need that that quick alignment?
So every level needs to have that visual board. And it's two different types of board. Virtual is high tech, low touch. That's the one that's in your computer. That's where you the screens. The lower you get in the organization, you need high touch, low tech. People need to do that. So what I would say to that is we build, and what we do, we build a connected model where, listen, this is what you own. So we're going to put the visual board there, but we're going to show you how it impacts the overall picture. Right. And so you must have these things. We call them these governance meetings. These are all about your visual boards. Once you know, what do you do about it? And these, what's your doors, wars, and mores? Your daily operating reviews, right? And the lower you get in the organization, they need to be very frequent, every day, sometimes every hour on every machine. When you start moving into the staffing positions, those are weekly touch points, if not dailies. The senior one roles, those are those monthly touch points, but monthly are like after action reviews. So when I build these boards, it's based on what's winning in that meeting. What's winning to that audience. They need to know that. Okay. Now, the monthly meeting is what's winning overall, right? The weekly ones are how you are impacting winning overall. And so your boards, it's like if I go to a soccer game, the scoreboard tells the score, but it's a little different. The baseball game, they tell the score, but it's a little different, right? A football game, right? And so when you're in those meetings, what's important are the CPI. We call them critical performance indicators. You got to know the CPI. Now, the KPIs are those things in the middle. How much time's on the clock? How many first downs you have if it's football? Who has the? Those are all important. But what drives your decisions or what's the CPI? What's the main thing on the board? So when you're in a company, you have to be very deliberate on what's winning. What's winning? One of my close friends and I were at dinner last night. He's on the board of a company. He says, Billy, I used one of your Billyisms in the meeting. And I'm like, which one? He goes, the main one, define winning. If you don't define winning, then where's the conversation going to go? Right? And so when you're talking about visual boards, define winning. Then you move to aligning to win. Who owns what in winning? And then you have the process where you talk about executing winning. That's your daily management system.
Right. Well, one of the things that I know many organizations, I guess I can't say many, I don't know the number, but a lot of organizations that I've been to that have some of their own challenges. Sometimes they have this challenge of not making that red is bad, and that it's something that we don't want to make visual because I'm thinking of one organization specifically. I'm not going to name any names here, but that, you know, what you call watermelon metrics, where they throw green out there all the time because they know if I put red out there, I'm going to get, you know, ripped a new one. I'm going to, you know, might lose my job. Like we're going to be in a bad place. We're going to have people out here watching us every day. So I'm not even going to put any red on there. I'm just going to make sure it's always green. And I'm going to tell this story that isn't a picture of reality. And I think the reason why that happens many times is because of the way that an organization is led. And it starts at the top. And I just want to ask you, what are the right behaviors from an executive leader that should cascade down through the organization? What are those specific behaviors that executives should be showcasing that will create a safe environment where you don't have watermelon metrics, where people have these boards, these visual management systems that they feel safe to show their problems? What would you say are some of those behaviors?
Yeah. So yeah, actually, you're almost letting the cat out of the bag, Patrick, when we talk about the executive track, right? When people are going to come to the
Right.
conference, this is going to be a big takeaway. And what we're
Yes.
going to talk about is, right, how do you create that psychological safety? What does it mean by celebrating the red? I'm going to start by telling you the best leaders, most effective leaders I know with transformation, I have a saying, be hard on the process so you can lead easy on the people. See, when you're hard on what we should be doing, the standards, and you're celebrating those things, when I say celebrate the red, Andy, you talked about it during my keynotes. When someone tells me something that's important, I don't get mad. I recognize them. Right? I create that safe environment for change. And so, one, how do you create this environment? And it's what you do, not what you say. And so you have to create this environment by celebrating the red. What I mean by I don't like red, but the fact that I know I want to see it. But I create this environment where people know that, listen, we can do something about it. I know, right? I created a no culture. The other one I'll talk about is when you're out there, when I'm building teams, I look at the cultural things, right? We talk about make people visible, they'll make you valuable. Celebrate the small wins. You can't just talk about the red. You have to talk about both. You have to celebrate the wins too. Make people have the mindset or create the mindset where winning is fun and losing isn't critical. Right? Losing is a part of the process. Right? Recently, I was in a restaurant and a couple of guys walk up on me. They own a business and they recognized me. They wanted to talk. And we talking about failure. And I said, think about a baby. When the baby falls, they stand up for the first time, they're wobbling. You're the parent. What do? You start cheering them on. But when they fall, what do you say? Oh, get up. Come on. You start calling the wife in. Honey, come in and look. Andy just took his first steps, right? You happy? Andy falls again. As a parent, do you say, oh, you're not going to be anything. You're late. What the heck? Why are you falling? That baby's not going to be worth a quarter. They fail. They can't walk. No. You go get the baby. You lift them up. You keep encouraging. Right? Now, there's things where you got to hold people accountable. But if you don't create this environment where people are recognized and embraced, I just did this thing called intimacy as a leader. You're going to hear about that in the conference. And it's called In To Me, You See. As a leader, I look for that in the people I work for. That respect. Into me. This is who I am authentically. You see that, you're okay with it. Right? Into me, you see. Now I can come to you with bad news. I can do, and I don't mean this literally, and I say it, I can call the baby ugly. Right? If we're in a meeting and you say, how does the baby look? In the grocery store, you lie. Oh, it's so cute. It's so precious. Right? But and then you walk away, you say, dang, that's an ugly baby. Right? So in business, I want to have that ugly baby conversation. How does the baby look? Andy, I want you to say to me, hey, Billy, baby's not so cute. And it's because we don't know how to do hair. It's because we don't know how. So we as the leaders are failing the people are not failing us. My number one question, and I'm going to pause for a second, and this is what I'm going to talk to about in the executive track. Try asking this question next time someone comes to you or you want something done. Okay, Patrick, we want to do this. What do you need from me? Pause. And watch your body language change. Not what do you want from me, right? I want a steak. I need to eat. When I ask you, what do you need from me to do this? The person normally self-reflects. And then most often they'll say nothing. Nothing. I can make it happen. No, I want to be a part of the solution. What do you need from me? Just those questions alone start to shift the mindset. So we're going to talk about that. That's how you start shaping the culture. Because Patrick, I'm going to tell you something. Change, people talk about it all the time. And we all three go out and help companies change. But let me tell you, we are not the change. Change happens like an egg. When the egg is cracked from the inside, life begins because a chick is born. But when the egg is cracked from the outside, life ends, right? We're having that egg for breakfast, right? And so when companies are going down their journeys, I help companies as well as you two, because I know both of you. You help companies crack that code from the inside. That means creating that environment where people own things, the things we're talking about right now. How do you create that ownership? How do you celebrate the red? How do you create a culture first versus a tool first? Because when tools lead,
Right.
failure follows.
Yep. Yep. Why I'm loving this conversation, what you do, Billy, so much is when I'm in organizations and they're wanting to get into the technical tools, or they've read these books and they're starting to scroll things up on the wall. If they don't have some daily visual management, in particular, I'll say, well, this is really about change management and people side of change. If they can't see where they fit in, or they don't know where they're truly at,
Yes.
how do you even go on and justify the change or the tool that you're trying to use? And usually they're trying to push it on them, and they haven't been trained, and they're just like, is this about cost cutting? Are we about to go under here?
Yes.
Just those simple, some people can get quite frustrated. They're like, hang on, what do you mean I got to start with 5S and visual management? And I'm going, well, for where you're at, I say it, and sorry for the bad American accent, but y'all can't see. There you go. That's terrible. But I just like, no one really knows what's going on, and that change is that really important piece there, Billy. And I just found that really impactful. And for those watching, so I've got Billy's book here, The Winning Link, right?
Yes.
Billy's got a really cool example of, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm not an executive, or I'm not in manufacturing or whatever. Billy's got a health example in there about losing weight and how you can align. We talked about looking in the mirror, harrowing things like standing on the scales, but also how you can connect that in. So I encourage people to check that out. And yeah, this works anywhere. If I can see where I'm going or what I'm supposed to be doing, that's a bit better than just, oh, you're not doing your job, or sometimes, hey, you're great, and you're thinking, what? So
yes,
that's so powerful, Billy.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's why I'm really looking forward to this executive track. Right? You know, one of the things that I realized through now working with other executives, senior executives, it's one, they know what to do, they don't know how to do it, and it's lonely at the top. Right? It's very few people you can talk to. Right? And so how do you do that? My last one is, we're going to talk about this at the conference as well. How do you create this culture? Because often when we go out and build teams, we focus on capability. We go right to capability. We see the resume, we go right to capability. You know, you have to take a step back and look at the 3 C's: character, chemistry, and capability. Because I don't want someone on my team that has horrible character. They're a thief, right? They're not trustworthy. They can be smart, but that is destruction, right? The chemistry. If all 3 of us, right before this, I'm being transparent, we were working through some technical issues. The chemistry was there. We started talking about other stuff. It wasn't a stress situation. It was like, oh, let's try this, or let's do that. Well, I'm going to share this with you. Guys, give me some feedback. That's chemistry. Capability is what they're seeing on the screen now. Right? This is a perfect example of that type of executive presence that needs to be had. Right? And the one thing I'm going to talk about as well is, how do leaders show up? Right? Your title doesn't give you impact. It's only impacting the people while you're in the room. When you leave the room, does your influence stay? Right? Andy, you and I talk. I appreciate you when I post something. You'll say something back, right? That's the value proposition. Right? You and I haven't talked in a long time, but their influence in you having the book. Patrick, when you call me often, what do I say, Patrick? You have me at hello. What do you want to do? Right?
Always open,
so
always willing.
That's the chemistry piece of it. And so we're going to talk about that, because once you put your management system in there, again, systems are only effective if people follow them. And one of the messages, right? And this is my mom's, it's not mine. It's what you accept, you can't change. So if you're a business leader and you haven't set the standard, or let me put it like this: a standard isn't what you write down, it's what you walk by. And if you walk by something and you say people should wear personal protective equipment and they're not wearing it, and you don't say anything, then that's the new standard.
I've taken, I think I've told this story many times, but you made me think about it again with this executive leader that I used to work for at a company way back. And when she would walk the floor, she would pick up trash, and she would also make corrections on PPE. And I always thought, this was when I was a young, I think I was a supervisor at that time. But she would, I always thought about that. Like, I can't believe she's picking up trash. It made me feel bad. Like I can't believe that she just found that, but I would think about, like, it's not really her job to do that, but she would do it for that exact reason, Billy, is that she didn't want to accept mediocrity or the red. She wanted to challenge it or make sure that everyone knew that that's not the acceptable way to put trash on the floor, to not wear PPE. We need to respond to that. We need to take action on that. Such an important piece,
It's setting that
Yeah.
example, being that example, right? Being that example. I actually work with two of the brightest young executives I've ever met. I mean, I was just with them in Louisville a couple of weeks ago. It's just amazing to watch them and their growth. But their father is, I tell you, he grooms them. He puts the right talent around them to help them grow. He doesn't look at it as just his role, and they've grown this company. But they are so amazing. To me, I was thinking about them yesterday in a discussion and talking about them. And I'm sure you've read the book, Who Moved My Cheese, right? It's one of the best books out there. And it keeps evolving. Every time I read it, I get something different out of it. But the one young man said, right now I'm learning. And as an executive, he goes, right, like him and he says, when I go to bed, he says, most people take their shoes off. He says, when I go to bed, I keep mine around my neck in case I got to get up in the middle of the night and start running, right? I know what it takes, right, to keep running. And what I mean by that is everybody wants to be king and queen. And what I mean, the next part of that is, the question is, who hunts the king? Who hunts the lion? If the lion's king, who hunts the lion? Not what the lion does, who hunts the lion? And you have to be aware of that, because that's where chemistry comes in place. Other lions are the biggest predator to a lion. It's not the elephant, right? And then comes the hyenas. They move in packs. But what the hyenas do, they look for weaknesses. They look for cracks so they can pounce on you, right? In business, what does that mean? They look for the kinks. They look for mistakes. They look for blame, right? And remember, in the absence of ownership comes blame. Those are those hyenas. And the last one is what kills the lion is complacency. When the lion gets complacent and stops sharpening their edge, they stop reading the books. They stop listening to these type of podcasts, right? And so when you talk about that and change as an executive, when you become lion, how do you stay there? How do you sustain that? And how do you create a culture of lions that are not trying to attack you, right? They're protecting the pride. They're protecting the organization. And I've been a part of organizations, and again, I love being transparent on podcasts. I was in the Deep South. My first big management assignment was in a place in the Deep South in Tyler, Texas. Became one of my most rewarding experiences. But it didn't start that way. When I walked in the door, it was like they looked at me like I was an elephant in a tree. How in the hell he get way up there, right? It wasn't what is he going to teach us? How can he help us? That was their first thing. But I had to show up differently. And the part of showing up as a leader is making sure people know what they own. And so that's it.
Yeah,
love it.
I
love it.
I love that elephant in the tree, but it is so true though. When a new leader starts, I think the first question people ask is like, "Oh, where'd they come from?" Or what did they do? Or what tickets have they got? And all those sorts of things. They immediately look at that capability piece. I think, like you said, and if they haven't been from a big company or haven't got that amazing story behind them, or even worse, the last company he was at or she was at, they got rid of 20% of the workforce, and oh no, here it comes. So I think there's that, the capability piece, that also the character, I think, and the chemistry. I met a really fascinating person. She was one down to the final 28 to be one of the first one-way ticket Mars astronauts. And she talked about how they went from 200,000 to 1,000 to try and work it out.
Yes.
And brilliant absolutely brilliant minds. They all had physical attributes they had to have, but they constantly threw them into different teams with different people to see how they would react in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that, what you were saying there about the chemistry and that piece there, if that wasn't there, she would never have got anywhere near that. So yeah, when the chips are down, but yeah, I think elephant in the tree. I love that.
Yeah. You know what?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. What is he doing way up there, right? And so you have to show up. You have to show up differently. You just have to show up. And often I show up. You know, one of the things that I coach young people is, man, I wear a jacket because it makes Billy feel good. I don't wear a jacket for no one else. My brother loves to wear t-shirts. If he was doing this podcast, he'd be doing it in a t-shirt. It's his personal preference. But he asked me,
Right.
why do you do that? I'm like, when I walk in the room, in most cases, right, it's like, whoa, who's that guy? Who's that guy? The reason why, it's the people that I'm in the meeting with. Right? I want to cut through that bureaucracy of filling each other out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you just said, you know, Billy Taylor being on the podcast, if Billy's there, he's just going to tell you his truth.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to tell you his truth. It may not be your truth, but it's my truth. And for me, it turned organizations around. Everything didn't always work. And you know what? We had more small wins than big wins. But at the end of the day, we won the championship. And so it's not okay if you go undefeated in a season and then you lose the first game in the playoffs. You're out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I at some point, I learned the things from the losses. I had multiple losses, but when the playoffs came, I was the best team on the field in the last one standing. And so it's the small wins are just as important, or they're critical to the big points, the main point, right? Yeah,
For sure.
And it's funny. I asked, so who won the Super Bowl last year? He said the Eagles. Well, who did they beat? Everybody starts thinking now. It was Kansas City, right? But you had to think about that. You remembered the champion, right? And after the big event, what normally follows when Oklahoma City just won the tournament? What followed? The parade, the recognition to say, we appreciate you. The city gets the chance to say, we appreciate you. And that's just as big as winning the trophy, right?
That's right.
And it's the key to relationships, not only at work, at home. Right? My wife, she wants to know she's valued. She wants to know. And as a human being, what we crave more than anything is to feel valued.
Mm-hmm.
You heard that saying, people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. Really what they quit is when they stop being valued. When they think it's not just about the boss. It's about the value proposition. If I don't feel valued, my number one teammate called me. He got offered a major job, and I told him he should take it. And I remember he called me before he accepted it. We had several conversations, and I told him, you have to. He called me back. He says, if you don't mind, will you not take me off of the website? Will you not take? I still want to be involved with this. I learned so much. You know, I love working with you. I love you. He says, the biggest thing I'm going to miss is traveling with you. Right. And so think about your kids. You can buy them all the presents you want. This is around executive leadership. This is a key point of life that comes back to managing a company. Every day I take my kids to basketball games, right? Football games. It's not it's not the 1,000 you go to that they remember. It's the 2 you missed because they want you there. They want your presence, not the presents you buy them. In life, they'll forget about the bike you bought them. They'll forget about the drum set. They'll forget about the video game. But what they'll never forget is when you were there when they needed you, when you celebrated them. You know, my son don't need me when he hits the game-winning shot. It's when he misses the game-winning shot And I'm there to say, son, that's just a part of life, man.
That's right.
That's great leadership. That's where change happens.
Yeah. That makes me think about, I just think about Amway. When you said that, when I was working at Amway, I remember in the cosmetics plant, I remember a couple of the people there telling me stories about when Dick DeVos used to walk the floor, obviously when he was alive and young enough, when he would walk the floor and just shake hands and talk to people and just chat with them about their families and their vacation plans and these different things. Those were the stories that they remembered, not the pizza parties that he paid for or the special, token of appreciation that they received at the end of 5 years or whatever it was. It was him physically being present with them in their work area and having real conversations, real genuine conversations where he cared about what their responses were and really listened to them. That's what made the most difference for them.
No, this was the executive and I. We've become friends. We've had a lot of dialogue since. But I recently did an event. And they had 1,000 store managers there, and I do the keynote. I've put this new material together. We launch it, and then I said, I'm going to be at the back at this point, and I'm going to sign every book. I won't go home until every book's signed. Now, remember how many people I told you that's going to be there? And my assistant looked at me like, are you crazy? We've got a plane to catch, right? I go to the back room. I set up the table. I didn't know this. The guy's on the other side. He puts up his GoPro. He just wants to see just what really happened. I'm signing every book. I'm there for about an hour. Now let's go back to what was that about? Those people that got a chance to get there and talk to me and get selfies, they felt valued. They felt they knew Billy Taylor after the keynote. I know Billy, right? And it's like when you and I first met, right? We know each other, right? And so that's that value proposition is about being sincere. If you say it, do it. If you sow it, don't be so gimmicky with operational excellence and lean, right? Because I get more out of that, I'm gonna be honest with you, than the people get. The biggest part of my day is interacting with people. That's what I love more than anything, being a leader. Right? If you focus on I think you focus on the outcome, you're not going to sustain. If you focus on the things you have to do to get the outcome, it becomes a constant.
Yeah, I'll never forget, Billy, when we did meet. It was for some strange reason, Patrick gave me the job to lead a bus tour to Ann Arbor. I'd never been to Michigan before, so that's crazy enough. It's going to work, and I met you. And one of the things that became very clear was that 2 feet rule that you ended up talking about later was about anyone comes within 2 feet, I say hello.
Yes,
and yeah, I knew you were the keynoter, but I'd never met you before, and I was like, oh, that's my guy. Like I really loved the fact that it didn't matter who was on the bus or where they came from. Billy Ray wanted to know who they were and what they did, and talking about the signings and things. So I always sit up the front. A, I'm short, and B, I think I need glasses. But C, I get to sometimes get some cool moments. And remember at the summit, Billy, you gave me that $5 note with take action, right?
That's right.
So I obviously I framed it like I said I would. And never forget that. And it was really about these busy people like yourself that are keynoting, and it just felt like, wow, that's really impressive, and you took extra time over what you needed to do. So I'll stop pumping your tires there, but I just want you to know that that's what I kind of try to be. And like with Patrick, there's that piece where you give back, and we have footy players down here, so the best players, a lot of times they'll run straight up the tunnel after the game. A lot of people end up getting their favorite player, and that's the player who might be sort of middle of the pack, but they hang around and they go and get photos, or they'll give their boots to a kid or something. And it sticks. It's like, oh, wow, well, he's the best player, but he doesn't have time for me. So
yes,
they never forget and that moment. So again, if people are coming to the summit, if you're wanting to be inspired, if you're wanting to have someone who just hits you sideways with something that really sticks, Billy, it's It's going to be awesome, mate. So I'm
Yeah.
just really can't wait to see you in person again.
No,
Yeah.
this is good. Good point you're making, though. Really, really great point. Really. And I'm excited to come back. To everybody out there, if you're watching this, I'm excited to come back. And then what I tell people, if I'm there, I'm there. So when you see me in the hallway or you've got a question, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
So just Billy, you got a minute? You got sure. Let's talk. What do you want to know? Right? That's right. I like you. I love your analogy, right? Running through the tunnel. No, we're not gonna run through the tunnel. We're gonna sit there and sign some autographs because you are who makes me.
Yeah.
That's
All
right.
right. Remember intimacy. Into me, you see. And I'm gonna stay there. So no, I'm looking forward to it, guys. This is gonna be great.
Well, we've referenced the summit multiple times. Let me bring everything kind of full circle here and explain what Billy Ray and Andy are talking about, because Billy obviously was one of our keynotes this last year at the Lean Solutions Summit, and this next year. This year, currently, 2025, September 24th and 25th, we're going to be in Detroit, the Motor City. We're going to be at the Westin, which is connected to the Detroit airport. So for those of you that are flying in from other states, from other countries, easy in, easy out. You can literally walk from your gate to the conference center and back without leaving the building. So it's pretty amazing. They do a great job at just a really easy in and out for people that are coming in for conferences. It's an amazing venue. It's a great location. But you heard us reference the executive track. So one of the things that we've been tossing around the last couple of years is to create a track that is specifically curated for those executive leaders and organizations. Many times, and I'm sure you guys that are listening that are executive leaders, you hit up these conferences and, maybe it's not totally relevant to you and your level or what you're working on currently. Maybe there's certain things that do resonate, but sometimes a lot of it isn't specific to the role that you're in. There's a different language that's spoken at the executive level. There's different levels of accountability, different and Billy, I know you can speak to this better than I can, but it's a different level of leadership that takes maybe a different type of understanding. And Billy said it's lonely at the top, which I'm sure that as well. Those of you that are listening, we want to create an experience where you are sitting in the room with other executives from different industries, but other executives that are at the same level of leadership that you are. And what we're planning to do is curate this experience. Now, we have some specific things that we're going to talk about during the executive leader experience, but we're going to ask you, when you register for the summit, we're going to ask you some questions, and you're going to give us some answers, and we're actually going to curate, we're going to customize this experience specifically for some of the challenges that you're experiencing in your organization as an executive leader. And you'll be having discussions with other executive leaders about some of those challenges, and you'll be hearing from some serious leaders at your level, like Billy Ray Taylor, who will be one of the speakers in the executive track. Katie Anderson will be one of the speakers. She also keynoted for us last year. Thilo Schwartz, who's also spent many years as an executive leader, and he'll be there as well. And then myself, we'll all together, between the four of us, we'll be running you through some, this isn't going to be a listen to Billy, listen to Patrick. It's going to be an interactive experience, a discussion, a conversation, basically specifically talking about things that are related at your level. So I'm excited for it. Billy, it sounds like you're excited for it. This is something different. We're kind of running this as something we've never done before, but we wanted to create this place for executive leaders to come. Now, you can still see your team, so bring your team with you, because your team will be heading out to some of the other breakouts, and we have some team building activities and things that are available as well. But this will be a specific track just for you, and it'll be curated by people like Billy Ray Taylor, Katie Anderson, Thilo, and myself. So Billy, what are your thoughts on it? What specifically, what are you looking forward to the most on this?
I'm looking at the peer-to-peer, right? That peer-to-peer conversation, those connections. And this is what's missing, right? Often those executives send people to these conferences to learn the practical tools and systems, but they don't really get that firsthand connection on how to do it, those peer-to-peer discussions. So this is what's been missing. And so for people to come to the conference and get that, those executives, those VPs, chief executive operators, right? Staff level, senior staff level managers, they're coming there now to get, how do I manage and deploy Kanban systems? How do I effectively implement a business operating system? And Billy, what's the key elements of a good system? What does good look like, right? And then the last part is like, those people get to walk away and emulate greatness, emulate success, right? It's like, I use sports analogies. Kobe Bryant emulated Michael Jordan. He wasn't trying to be Michael. He wanted to understand the standards of being great, the habits of what makes greatness. That's what they're going to get from this conference. That's what I'm excited about. As you can see, I'm pumped.
So excited.
I'm pumped.
Well, Billy, we're gonna drop some links into the show notes, so anybody can go in there and grab a link specifically to register for the Lean Solutions Summit, and the executive track, the executive experience, is an add-on to that. So obviously you'll get access to everything with your team, but during the breakouts you'll be heading to the executive experience. So we'll drop that in the show notes. We'll also put a link to Billy Ray's book, The Winning Link, as well as his website at LinkedXL, if you'd like to get some more information on that. And just like Billy said, he's very active on LinkedIn and through his website. So if you got a question for Billy, reach out to him. He'll help you out. He'll answer your questions. He'll be more than welcoming to open himself up to help you out. So Billy, again, thanks for being on the show. It's always good to see you. I'm excited to see you in person again in September. It's going to be a great event. And obviously Andy will be there as well. So, if you're listening to this, you got to be there. Everyone's going to be there. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
All right. Take care. Take care, guys.